Hang on a second. See if anybody pops in before I start. And yeah, okay, I guess so. And as usual, we'll get right to it. I know everybody who cares in the business and who's been screwed has been paying very close attention over the last few years, before I even started, and with hope that things were just going to somehow change for the better, right? One of the biggest things that happened in 2020 was when the indictments were released and the arrests were made and the raids happened at the farms up here. Thank you to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the prosecutors, the agents who worked for years on this, did an amazing job. And in the end, after they tried and prosecuted some of the big guys, they thought that the racing commissions, the governing bodies, the policing authorities of harness racing would actually do their jobs. Well, we all found out that that wasn't going to happen, right? And not until, and I'm just going to say it, some people that care, who are working behind the scenes, who were once part of the industry you all call harness racing, decided to do something on their own. Most of it started as, like a lot of people have accused me of, revenge. Yeah, it's called motivation. It's called when they've taken enough away from you, you're finally going to fight back and not be afraid, like 99.9% of the people who rely on harness racing for their existence as their sole source of income for themselves and to care for their families. And when you have that kind of leverage on people, that's called extreme authority and it's a tyranny. That's basically what the people who oversee harness racing are. They're tyrants. Not to mention that not only are they governing the game, not only are they controlling the money, they're also competing for it. And there's your conflict of interest, bordering on criminal. You all know what we've done, what I've done with the help of one woman in particular, and some people who taught me how to take this information and use it as best as we can to maybe get the sludge moving. And it worked. It worked to a T. Took some time, took a lot of patience, but it worked. So let me start with, if you've been paying attention, and I know a lot of you have, Pollock report brought it to the racing side that New York Focus and a journalist named Sam Mellons has been on this for a while, investigating this with the help of the same people that I've been working with and educating himself and looking into and digging deeper. And that's going to the state capitals and the commissions themselves and the people in control to find out what really happened after what everyone calls the first wave and waiting for the second wave. And you're all waiting for the unredacted Fishman list. That's all nonsense. What really happened? Nothing. And they knew about this. They knew that these records existed. You have state commissions who are aware of, when I'll say what Mr. Mellons called it, prosecutable violations that they wouldn't even hand out a suspension on. So I'm going to just read off my notes again. And I call it, the chickens have finally come home to roost. This is quickly and in stages, especially with this journalist who's exposing this now, that the states were not only aware, they were complicit, and the evidence is there. This is beyond even what we all have our opinions and assume, and you just simply connect the dots and 2 + 2 = 4, can see something ain't right. He can prove it. So it's come full circle. The truth that the powers that be knew long ago and ignored it. Now, we've talked about this, and I've done I don't know how many live streams and talked about this for over a year now, especially since 2024 when Mr. Corral, who, again, Jeff, I couldn't care what you think of me. You may not believe it. I'm on your side, but I question sometimes whether you're on our side. And when I say our side, I'm talking about honest horsemen who love their animals, never did anything to hurt the animals, never did anything to hurt the business. And the things that's happened recently, dude, I don't understand. Maybe there's a good reason, but people are still hurting. See, now, with me reporting on this a little bit, maybe this has got something to do with it. But again, don't attack me, dude. Doesn't work. I couldn't care less. I can't race at your track. Why don't you take that up with the powers that be that have made it that way, that someone like me and many others are being punished only because we talked too much and we got too close to the truth. So anyway, they can't hide it anymore. Well, minimally, they can no longer not act on this. There's going to be a lot of things happening quickly. And said, imagine the head of Ways and Means in Albany, Gary Pretlow. Now, you may know that name, but I've mentioned that many times. Good friend of Mr. Feraldo's, right? Not too long ago, a few months ago, they had the legislative race at Yonkers Raceway. And I was talking to my friends of all places, the other night during the night class fundraiser in New York City, PETA. And I said, you know that race when you protested outside of Yonkers Raceway, I said, nothing happened this year. And they said, yeah, what? I said, yeah, because they never put a press release out. They did it secretly. And we found out later that they brought in could you imagine ushering in these legislators to have a private, little event for each other, and they're wined and dine and they're all happy, basically stroking them for what they want, which is to continue their $60 million a year at Yonkers Raceway funding after MGM pulled their casino license license application for a very good reason that even they want no part of this. I've warned everyone. I said it many times. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. They should be worried. And it turns out they are worried. And it's going to be the little guys who got this started when the dust settles on this. And this could be this year, next month, next year, but it's going to happen. So Pretlow, who said, and I've named many times, said could you imagine what he said in response to this was, they may have purchased these medications and drugs for rats. This is what one of the most powerful politicians in Albany said when questioned about what's going on in harness racing. Oh, maybe they purchased this stuff for rats. He didn't realize that a lot of people know what's been going on and have been on it for a long time. There's no more hiding from this. So I said, well, now we have proof who the rats really are. Andrew Cohen on Pollock Report said, do state legislators really believe that nothing short of a prosecutable offense warrants a license suspension? And I've butt heads a little bit with some of the reports that Andrew Cohen has made, but that's perfect. Eloquent and to the point that the State Gaming Commission and state politicians who are aware of this realize that not only the evidence that and I say we, myself, I'm the idiot that's out here publicly and putting it on YouTube and wherever, either in print or through a live stream or videos like the wiretaps, whatever, bringing stuff that's public, open to the public to be obtained by anybody, that they've ignored it and no one else has looked into it. Status quo, it's just going to go away, which it would have had we not brought it to the forefront. You all know others have gone to prison for the same thing these people are. There is evidence that they have done committed the same act, and they're still racing. You know who we're talking about. One of them is still racing on appeal from an indefinite suspension via SRIF and the United States Dragon Association. When do these appeals now end? We were originally told that the USTA handles this within 30 days. We're on 2 months with one of them and no updates. I said, how many times have we said that guys are in prison for what others are also guilty of and still racing, and no positives? No one's ever tested positive for any of this stuff. The precedent has been set. The mere purchase of it is intent to use it. And that's it. 2 guys, well, you still got Seth Fishman. Nick Surik is still in prison, right? I forget who else, but they're all they've either gotten out or are soon to get out. And some of them are still operating in the weeds. But why have some of the pets snuck by and are still racing? Well, we know. Just most people in the industry are afraid to say anything because they're going to end up being penalized for talking too much. Doesn't matter whether you're complaining about ice in the barn area, or the guy in your barn that's sticking tubes in his horses, or this other guy who's clearly documented of purchasing things like BB3, EQ at 105, EQ 1 at 5, all this crap. Undetectable blood builders, painkillers that are 100 to 1,000 times more powerful than freaking morphine. That's okay. What's going on in New Jersey now? I'll get to that. And this all while the commission's new and did nothing. We all know the connections, who controls the money, who controls who is allowed to race. Take, for example, $60 million a year at Yonkers Raceway. You need approval, even though you're in good standing and have nothing, no pending issues, no suspensions, no fines. You're in good standing with the United States Charting Association. You went to New York State Gaming, applied for a trainer's license, granted a trainer's license. There you go. You go to drop in at Yonkers Raceway. Whoa. Nope. Well, you got to be reviewed. An endless review. It's not so much that they deny you, they just don't approve you. $60 million in state-generated video lottery terminal funds that are being controlled by individuals who are either employees of Yonkers Raceway or officers of the Standardbred Owners, Standard SOANY. Is that what it is in New York? Yes, I think so. We know who that is. Either in the race office or the Horsemen's Association. $60 million in state-generated and earmarked funds to continue propping up the losing proposition that is called harness racing in Westchester County. Forget about all the other tracks, but this is the one that this new report, we'll call it, is focusing on because it's the easiest one. They've gotten so confident and so complacent that nobody ever is going to ever question them or step up on them that they pretty much let their guard down. And now it's come to bite them in the ass. Now I see that Delaware, Virginia, and Maryland are having a powwow. We know what that's about. All the same things that we've put out there, certain individuals in particular. What they're going to do, I have no idea. Why they can't act on their own, I don't understand. Why does there need to be a powwow? Maybe they are going to, hopefully they're going to join forces and say, you know what, enough's enough. We're being watched. They found us out. It's time we do our job. Just do your job. Like I said, I've compared it to a building inspector, which is really a code enforcement officer, which means if you've got, here's the code and here's the rules, it's not up for interpretation. It's for you to enforce as written. Same as the rules and regulations that are set forth by the states through their gaming commissions, their racing commissions. That's it. If you did this, A, B, and C, and A, B, and C breaks the rules, you're guilty. You're given a chance to appeal, which should be within good reason, not forever. And there is a preset penalty for each of those violations, right? No, not in harness racing. You all know, but it's all coming to an end. Now, what I called the privileged, and we're waiting on definite appellate court answers in New Jersey. It just keeps coming up. I've been watching now from the outside in. Um, I was alerted to the fact or not that our friend who is facing 38 or 380 days in New Jersey, not the 90 that Mr. Corral wants to make a deal with. I'm talking about the actual penalty set down by the NJSC, and they said no to the review so far. But we've never had a track owner who paints himself as the savior of harness racing and the master of integrity, and the guy that's out there fighting for you is sticking up for this guy. Still don't understand it. Has been getting his affairs in order. I checked with on the USTA. It seems as though, now I don't know, but his LLC now is solely in the ownership of his wife. I'm calling this, if this happens the way it looks, where this person is going to be allowed to just shift all the ownership over to a spouse. Remember Bryce Cody's rule on spouses, right? And then immediate family being a brother who will be able to train the horses and go down as trainer of record. The horses won't move an inch. They'll still be at the same training facility. What have we accomplished? Nothing. But again, while others like that old man, like I said, I believe in Delaware when he got that Butte positive. Poof, you're 3 horses that are inconsequential and just nobody would even know who you are. But I'm going to, like Mr. Cody said, nope, you can't use that guy. He's too close to you. He's in the same barn. Nope. And we can go on with that. Just little guys that have no, I don't want to say they're irrelevant. They're not irrelevant to themselves, but their presence or not affects nobody other than it's just somebody trying to make a living, and you want to friggin' hurt them. Yet these other people, like I said, are privileged. Why? You give me one good reason. Jeff, Bryce, Jason. Why? Still no answer. You're quick to respond to me in emails to tell me that my opinion is stupid. You tell me why your opinion is correct and hurting these other people. I can't say names because I don't want to implicate anybody that I even talk to anyone in the game, but I feel bad for people who ship from God knows where just to get some starts in, maybe pick up some checks, by maybe some miracle, end up in the winner's circle at your racetrack. They don't stand a chance. But you'll advocate for this other person. Why? Where's your press release on that? Like I said, like you cry about everything else. You cry about casinos. You cry the state of New Jersey is hurting you. You cry that the horsemen aren't filling your box. You cry that you're not getting more funds to prop up a dead industry, which I'm on your side on that because, I understand it's gone way longer than you expected, but that's your decision. Why are certain people that we know are guilty of specific, let's say, acts are given these privileges to just drag it out and, oh, you need this? Okay, no problem. But someone else, your days are starting next week. No ifs, ands, or buts. And now before I make my other statement, which I wasn't going to do anything like this, but it hit me today, and I need to say this because I do keep my ear to the ground on what's being said out there, and I'm going to fire back for the first time in a while. Because I pretty much kept my focus on on what's happening and not be steered by cowards. But this all began with us. Nothing was happening other than what the federal government was doing. And we would never have known had I not been contacted by certain individuals 3.5, almost 4 years ago now, when I got thrown out of this place over here for complaining about what they got going on right now, which is a half-mile sheet of ice, which I think is friggin' hilarious. Oh, by the way, if you're looking to make frozen margaritas, stop by Goshen Historic Track tomorrow and scrape some of the fucking ice off and make them fresh. You might even look for the yellow snow, pre-flavored. But it all began with us. Myself, who I said when I was contacted, I will do it. Give it to me. What are they going to do to me? They've tried everything and they've realized they can't stop me. They can't shut me up. Threaten me all you want. Jason Settlemore said to me right in his office that they went to him and they said, and he said, and I'll say it, this is one time he actually did kind of stand up for me, was he told all of those guys that said, look at what he's saying, look at what he's doing, whenever he's coming here, why do you allow him here? They're looking to stop me everywhere. Forget about everything else they've done in my personal life to try to stop me. But he said, okay, if he's guilty of hurting you, take him to court. None of them have, because they know I'm going to sit there and tell the truth. And I'm going to have the receipts to back it up. But we weren't afraid to put it in the public eye, and they tried to make it go away. They've tried everything. So here's my little statement I want to say. When it comes to what we've been able to do as a bunch of nobodies that most people have never heard of in harness racing, just did their thing, stayed in their barn, were wronged, if you want to call it that, and chose to fight back this way. And me being the mouth who was willing to take everything that was given to me, as long as it was the truth, and bring it to the public to the point where things like, and I'll just say it in here. So there are people that are so deeply desperate to discredit us and what we've accomplished that they repeat daily dozens of times anonymously, screaming to 50 people on the planet that I have never been recognized or received any actual accolades for what I say I've done. Stuff that you've all been seeing for the last couple of years. One individual even says the only thing I've done is copy and paste. Yeah, well, that's true, and I accept that compliment. I made public what people like whoever that individual is, as well as their friends and criminal partners, what they thought would never see the light of day, public. Yes, I took, if you want to call taking documents or information or audio or anything and copying it and bringing it to the public through my Facebook group, YouTube channel, TikTok, whatever, emails, mass emails. Yes, that's exactly what I did. The last effing thing you ever wanted to see happen. It's called sharing that information to individuals who could act on it. And they did. That by ignoring it, like pretty much everything in harness racing, that actual people in power and the general public would never be made aware of what these crooks have been doing and are still doing. As for being recognized, I'll accept the actual results over a blurb in an article. Before I started airing this, what was being done? Nothing. What would have been done? Nothing. Had we not done it, nothing would have been done, which is exactly what they wanted done. Nothing. Start with Jeff Gillis. How's he doing now? Praying he wins his appeal of the 10-year suspension handed down directly as the result of my releasing to the public that wiretap audio. Where's Fred Bourgault? Done nothing, right? Well, he's in prison for beating a horse to within an inch of his death, to the point euthanasia was the only treatment. Mr. Taylor, would he be answering to the state of Delaware had I not released those invoices? Would his friend who works for New York State Gaming have called me, asked me to back down, if not for those documents that even he directly stated were destroying him? The audio's out there. A New York State Gaming employee, aka an associate judge, and at the time was a presiding judge, called me advocating for Howard Taylor. Why? It's not destroying anyone. I'm sorry. It's not me destroying anyone. It's the evidence of what they did that's doing that. I'm only bringing the information, again, that's been out there for the public. People in harness racing just didn't know. And the people governing harness racing sure as hell didn't want it getting out there. So just ignore it and it'll go away. And it was. Now, Nick DeVita is appealing a ruling of indefinite suspension with the USTA. Why? Do I really need to say it again? You saw the invoices, you saw the documents, you heard the wiretaps, you saw the wiretap transcripts, you heard who was really speaking using his cell phone, and that man had an accent from the lower part of the hemisphere. You know who I'm talking about. Everyone knows who I'm talking about, Petrov. But again, and I don't blame you, most of you were afraid to say anything, and I get it. We can go on. The dominoes are falling. We tipped the first few. Now they have no choice but to topple the rest. If you're an honest horseman, you're welcome. If you're a crook or partner of the crooks, boo-hoo. You're never going to shut us up. Well, it's too late for that. The damage is done. That should really be how I close that out. So, that being said, Juan de Jesus says there should be an open investigation. Well, that's what's happening, dude. That's what's coming. They can't hide it any longer. So the states are going to have to, they're going to start, like I said, whether it's in the form of a specialized investigative group or a task force, that's what's happening. Unbiased and just gets the truth and acts on it. And if it exposes people in specific offices of power that we've mentioned these names, it's going to be bad. And that's when, like I said, once the public starts to get onto this and they realize that $240 million a year has been injected into harness racing every year, a dead industry that abuses horses, drugs horses, manipulates the money, manipulates a betting public that doesn't really exist. Either way, doesn't deserve a penny of this money. They're going to say, no, you've been supporting this. Our legislators have been supporting this. Once they feel as though their offices and their positions in government are being risked because their constituents are like, well, there are people on the streets starving, and you're allowing this criminal enterprise to continue, and you're also funding it. Why do you think you see global corporations like MGM Resorts running? Sold Northfield too, right? They want no part of this. So that's that. Now I want to have a little fun. A couple of my friends over on that other website. I do have friends that keep me up to date and say, you got to go see this. I just got off the phone before with one of the individuals who posts over there all the time and says, man, they're just going bananas, because I don't post there anymore and I'm not going to. But I want one to know, and I'm going to call him Gugatz because I don't want to dox him. But I did redact this heavily. What does your IP come back to Montgomery, New York? Just saying. And the other guy that likes to run his mouth. Now, like I said, the cowards have done everything they can to flush me out and to try to stop me. Talking about my family. What have you accomplished? But I do have a question for the other guy that seems to know so much about me, and they're fucking obsessed with me. Is why do you keep changing ownership on your house between your wife and yourself? I know everything. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. Carriage horses, New York City. I had a blast. Of all things, I gotta address this. Adita Burnt-Grant said to me 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, we're having a fundraiser in New York. It's going to be in the East Village. And immediately my brain goes, I can't go there. But again, these are people that are so opposite of me. These are true activists. They are the true extreme activists. PETA, maybe even night class, not really as much, but all in the same room at a restaurant in the East Village. They help try to raise funds for night class. Adita and night class, Steve Nislik, her boss, have done a lot. And I've been there with her for the last 3 years, and I've spoken with them. My purpose and usefulness is what I'm able to find in the park She's excellent at doing the work and dealing with the city. I hand it off to her. Hey, I found this horse, tag number this, hoof ID this, lame here, well, whatever. Is it bad enough that they should see a vet? Here, I've dealt directly. Just we handle it. I've been in the park. I've I've given Adita ways. Again, it's like teaching someone the game. She had a very good eye from the day I met her and first met her in the park, and then I'd say, okay, here's how you identify this. Most people in the public won't see that this horse is off right hind, like we all know. One thing about harness racing it teaches you is how to identify a horse that's off and where they're off. And then we know what to do afterwards. And but now, like I said, I'm going to put a video out of when I spoke the other night. And I said the reason that they're being sued by Transit Workers Union, which is hilarious that they try to call these individuals who I call glorified merry-go-round operators. Not one of them is a horseman, and not one of them really cares about their animals. It's just a job. They say they love their job, and they do it because they love their job. But, they're suing Night Class for defamation and costing them money. Meanwhile, at the same time, they're saying it's not about the money. We do it because we just love to be with our horses all day and sit there doing nothing while these horses suffer living in squalor in New York City in concrete friggin' equine prisons on shit, no bedding. They walk out of there, you see them, they never get a bath. Any of the horses, the draft horses with any white on their legs we've all seen it, manure and urine colored. They do nothing for these animals. So without getting into any more detail about that, it's just the worst possible place to keep an equine of any breed for any reason. Even NYPD. Yeah, they do a great job. It's no longer useful. It's pretty to look at, but those animals don't belong there the way they live. Even everyone in harness racing likes to get their horses out in the field every day. Let them be a horse. Keeps them fresh. Why? Because it's what they frickin' require by nature. Unless you got one sour-ass mare, most of them, you throw them in the field and you turn them loose, and then you're seeing the bottom of their hind feet, right? They're happy. Tail up over their ass, ears up, curled neck, happy. That's a horse being a horse. Kicking each other. That's what they do. But now they're being sued by the Transit Workers Union, who, like I said in my little speech, they have bottomless resources. So what is the real reason that they're suing them? There's got to be something behind this that we don't understand, because it doesn't make any sense. And I said obviously everyone understands this costs a lot of money, and it's going to cost a lot of money for Night Class to defend themselves. But like I said, and I even finally got to meet her boss for the first time, Steve Nislick, that in the end, the best defense to defamation is the truth, and we have the truth, and that's it. And if I have to, I said it, I put out a tweet today to John Samuelson, the president of the TWU, that please, because I put out a video that I mentioned earlier that has 120,000 views on TikTok of a horse. Any one of you will look and just be sick. Knee out over the toe, 2 drops of Spenceries behind. They're saying that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Horse with a pronounced head nod left front off that bad knee that's twice the size of the right knee, and running down so bad right hind, that close would need to be covered up. But not pulling a carriage on asphalt and concrete in New York City. That's the correct answer. Well, we rescued him. I don't give a shit what anybody says. It is not an excuse to say, oh, well, this horse would have gone to there or whatever. Well, you know something? So what you're saying is, if you've got a broken leg, and if we can use you and you work in absolute pain and misery, we will give you the privilege of staying alive. That's their thought process. No, they're able to buy a horse for $900 and use it until it drops dead or completely breaks down, and then they just have the Amish guys come and do a switcheroo, replace it with another one. That's the truth. Because the truth is they don't make any money, because the truth is the public is over it. The truth is they got crushed this year with the tourists, between none of them taking any carriage rides, nowhere near in the numbers that they used to, because people have changed and realized this is no good anymore. And they got shut down at least one day each weekend of the month of December, when they would normally be packed and going down Fifth Avenue past the tree and all that shit, right? Radio City Music Hall, blah, blah, blah. Those days are over. People realize what's wrong is wrong. Harness racing, people are now realizing what has happened is unacceptable, and it's going to be investigated. And if these guys that hate me are angry, good. If you think you're going to stop us, too late. Again, my job is done. I'm focusing elsewhere. And again, this year should be the year of the horse, where this abuse in New York City and the carriage horses ends. My advice now to everyone, which is crazy, because I would say chickens, cowards, fight back, whatever. Sit tight. The work is done for you. If there is any justice in this world, this time next year, you're going to be looking at a much cleaner, streamlined, organized, and policed sport of harness racing and industry of harness racing across the board, because what's going to happen in New York is going to set a precedent for the rest of the country, or the rest of North America, that cannot be disputed. The USTA will not be able to turn a blind eye to it, and the criminals will be eliminated. That's it. I'll catch you all later.